The first sign that something was wrong was the silence. Sarah called the storage facility 3 times, her messages growing more frantic. She was only a few weeks late on her payment, a small slip during a chaotic move after a breakup. She had the money now, just needed someone to answer. When she arrived, her red lock was gone, replaced by a heavy cylinder lock she didn't own. The manager, once friendly, now looked at her with pity. He told her the unit had been sold. Sold? Her life, her grandmother's rocking chair, photo albums, her daughter's art, gone. The manager pointed to the fine print. It was all legal, he said. The auction was blind. The buyer didn't know what was inside, but Sarah did. Her memories, her family's history, erased for a few $100s. This wasn't just Sarah's story. Countless women have lost everything to this system. A missed payment, caused by job loss, illness, or divorce, meant losing not just things, but the threads of their lives. The system didn't help. It profited from their misfortune. Blind auctions weren't a game of chance. They were calculated and cruel. The emotional toll is immeasurable. It's not just financial loss. It's the theft of identity. For women like Sarah, the loss was a profound setback, a reminder of vulnerability. The system saw her treasures as abandoned goods, not as a life in transition. Her story became the spark for a legal battle that would challenge the self-storage industry. It forced a question: who is really protected when we trust corporations with our lives? And what happens when that trust is betrayed? For many women, a storage unit is more than extra space. It's a lifeline. Imagine fleeing an abusive relationship, grabbing what you can in minutes. The unit becomes a safe haven for your children's toys, your documents, your memories. It's not just about survival. It's about preserving a sense of normalcy in chaos. Women are often the keepers of family history, tasked with sorting through lifetimes of possessions. Storage offers time and dignity to do this right. But women also face more economic instability, lower wages, caregiving, sudden expenses. A missed payment can mean losing everything, with no real warning. The system preys on this vulnerability, turning a lifeline into a trap. The very tool meant to protect women's lives and memories is used against them. The cost of a late payment becomes a lifetime of loss. The self-storage industry is a multi-billion-dollar business, but its inner workings are hidden. We see rows of steel doors, but inside are people's lives in transition. Students, families, small businesses. The promise: pay a fee, get a key, your things are safe. But the reality is different. Contracts are dense, and default means your unit can be seized and sold. The process is swift, designed for company profit, not customer protection. Notification is minimal. A letter to an old address easily missed. For some facilities, auctions are routine revenue, not a last resort. The public rarely sees the human cost, only the spectacle of auctions on TV. Behind every lock cut is a story of loss, rarely told. Blind auction sounds fair. Nobody knows what's inside until the door opens. Buyers can only look from the doorway, then bid on the whole unit. The industry claims this is impartial and efficient. But the blindness is a myth. Only staff have full access before the auction. Employees cut the lock, enter the unit, and see everything. This creates 2 big problems: skimming and insider tips. Staff can remove valuables before the auction, leaving only leftovers for buyers. Or they can tip off favored buyers about hidden treasures for a kickback. The auction isn't a gamble, it's rigged. The people meant to protect your belongings are positioned to profit from their loss. The blind auction is a cover for a deeply flawed, easily exploited system. The house always wins, and the renter always loses. The illusion of fairness hides a system stacked against the vulnerable. Marissa's story shows how the system fails. A single mom, she stored her life, furniture, baby clothes, her late mother's jewelry, after a divorce. She fell behind on payments after losing her job, but was told the facility would work with her. When she returned with cash, her unit had been auctioned for $400. She pleaded, showing texts promising her belongings were safe, but the manager pointed to a notice sent to her old address. The betrayal was crushing. But then, her lawyer uncovered security footage. Employees entered her unit the night before the auction, spent an hour inside, and left with bags. The next day, the jewelry was gone. The auction was never blind, it was a cover for theft. Marissa's loss became evidence of a corrupt, predatory system. Her case exposed not just indifference, but active exploitation. The buyer got leftovers. Marissa lost her history. The system didn't just fail her, it enabled her loss. Her fight became a rallying cry for change. One woman's tragedy became the proof needed to challenge an entire industry. In court, Marissa's case became an indictment of the industry. SecureSpace argued they followed the law, pointing to the contract and lien notices. But the security footage told another story. Employees entering at night, valuables missing. The manager's excuses crumbled under cross-examination. Whistleblowers from other companies described skimming and rigged auctions as routine. The so-called blind auction was a sham. The defense's reliance on the contract looked weak. Marissa's lawyer argued the company broke its promise of good faith. SecureSpace hadn't just sold her property, they enabled its theft. The trial revealed a system designed for profit, not fairness. The law, meant to be a remedy, had become a shield for abuse. Marissa's fight exposed the gap between what's legal and what's just. The jury found SecureSpace liable for breach of contract, fraud, and theft. Marissa won damages, but more importantly, the verdict sent shockwaves through the industry. State legislatures began rewriting lien laws, spurred by public outrage. Blind auctions were banned. New laws required detailed photographed inventories before any sale. Notification rules were strengthened. Companies had to make real efforts to reach tenants. The business model shifted from quick liquidation to loss prevention. Storage companies invested in customer service and payment reminders. The incentive to rush to auction disappeared. The industry was forced to become more humane. Marissa's case didn't just win her justice, it changed the rules for everyone. The focus moved from profit to protection. A single verdict transformed an entire industry. Marissa's story is a warning. The fine print matters. We sign contracts we never read, trusting companies to be fair. But these agreements are written to protect corporations, not us. Clauses that strip our rights are buried in legalese. The blind auction loophole thrived in this gap between trust and reality. People believed in secure storage, never imagining a clause could erase their history. The system wasn't broken, it was designed this way. The injustice was hidden in plain sight. This story is a call to demand clearer, fairer contracts and stronger consumer protections. We must push for transparency so no one else loses everything to the fine print. The reforms after Marissa's case were a victory for consumer rights. Blind auctions ended, and the system became more transparent. But this isn't the end. Corporate power still outweighs the individual. We must stay vigilant, especially for women who bear the brunt of systemic failures. Empowerment comes from knowledge. Ask questions, demand clarity, read the fine print. Support organizations fighting for consumer protection. Insist on contracts as clear as the services they cover. The burden should be on corporations to be fair, not on us to decipher legalese. Marissa's fight isn't over, it's moved to new fronts. This is about more than storage units. It's about trust, justice, and dignity. The lock has been opened, but the fight for fairness continues.